And you've been talking all about China this morning. You say that Beijing poses an enormous challenge. Do you think the world is rising to that challenge?
It poses an enormous challenge because it's growing so quickly, because to many people it's like a sort of trade juggernaut that's sort of sweeping across the international trading system. But it's a challenge for trade policy and trade rules because, of course, it's a state-led economy. Because of the scale and the penetration of its industrial policies, the size of its state-owned sector, the problems that it has over protecting and respecting intellectual property. Now, all of these issues, if China's rise is going to continue unimpeded or unchallenged, all of these issues are ones that China itself has got to address and really reassure the world that it's prepared to take on these issues, look at the trade rules that exist and apply to what it's doing and where it's going, and that China really is going to take its place as a comfortable member of the international trading system and community and help make those new rules that we urgently need.
For that, does China need to come around to this ideal of Western liberal democracy?
No, that's its choice. It has chosen many aspects of Western capitalism and our market system, but it's left our liberal values and democracy at the door. Well, that's China's choice, and it's not really for us to impose our system of politics and democracy on China, just as it's not open to China to act in a hegemonic way and seek to impose its system on others. No, we've got to come to terms with the fact in the West that we're neither going to be great friends and allies of China, but nor do we need to be an enemy of China. We've got to find a way of partnering with China in the international community. And to do that, we have first of all got to share a frame of reference. We've got to understand really how the world is and how each is going to fit into it, but also what rules are going to apply to both and who is going to take on a collective responsibility for upholding those rules and enforcing them. And there are many people in the West, not just President Trump, there are many in the United States, but also many in Europe, who feel that China needs to step up a bit more, embrace those international rules, not just simply those that have been inherited from a previous era, but rules which have got to be remade for the 21st century. And China's job is to help reform those rules and then benefit from them as everyone else can do themselves.
There's two issues here, right? One is, to the set of criteria that you established, whether Beijing is interested, right, in gradually removing the role of the state and all of the other structural reforms that it's talked about but really hasn't made a great deal of progress. And the other is how long these things take. I mean, none of these things are going to happen enough for President Trump to call it a political win.
Well, President Trump wants all this done by the day before yesterday.
Literally.
And if not by the day before yesterday, then certainly in time for the midterm elections. So let's get real, shall we? We're not operating in the world on the basis of Mr. Trump's timetable and his political needs. But what we are trying to do, all of us, and we should be doing this collectively, is make the world a better place in which we can sustain peace, grow prosperity, and share it more equally. Now, within countries, we each have a responsibility to our fellow citizens within our own societies to do that. But as countries, we have a responsibility to do that to the rest of the world. And it's finding that sort of common framework of reference, finding the forums in which we can bring our respective analysis and ideas, promote an understanding, an agreement that accommodates everyone's interests. That's what we've got to do. That's what multilateralism is all about. It's what President Xi Jinping was talking about yesterday in Shanghai. And for those of us who believe that the world has got to be an ordered place, a world in which there are rules in which we all join in upholding them. We want to see not just talk, we don't want just to see aspiration, not just sort of good words. We want to see those words backed up with some clear ideas, clear proposals, and genuine action. And I think that all of us have got a lot more to demonstrate to each other that we're prepared to do that. Yes, certainly including China, but then the United States also has a responsibility to make sure that they are going to be a willing counterpart. They're going to be an engaged partner in this process and not somebody who's just sort of standing on the sidelines bellowing at everyone else through a megaphone.
You could sort of characterise the Brexit scenario in the same way. What kind of partner will the UK be following this? Look, if you were a betting man, what are the chances that we're going to end up with a hard Brexit, and what are you advising your clients at this point? You say we're running out of time.
Well,
you said that a few months ago, actually.
I think it's almost certain that we're going to end up with some form of hard Brexit. I mean, if we were going to really manage this in a way in the interests both of our own economy, investors, businesses, and the millions of employees that we have, then what you would be doing is leaving the European Union, but staying close to it, remaining part of its economic system, not giving up the huge rights and entitlements to trade that we have presently in the single market, and certainly not throwing overboard our customs union with what is our biggest export market, as well as the absolutely essential source of goods and materials and industrial inputs in our supply chains. I mean, we operate a network economy, a system of network production in Britain, as every other advanced economy does. And what we're in danger of doing is just massively disrupting that, tearing up its rules, throwing them up in the air, and just sort of wondering where they're going to land in the next few years. Now, this is crazy stuff. It's crazy. And yet we have a government in Britain that's still arguing amongst themselves with each other about one aspect of one particular issue to do with Brexit, because that goes to the heart of their titanic struggle about how fast we're going to leave, how great a clean break is going to be our departure, etc. And I'm afraid that, yes, well, the biggest casualty, if this goes on, is going to be Britain, no doubt at all about that. But the rest of it's not going to do the rest of the world any favours either.